Hey, I'll adjust some social paintball. What I want to do is go over my i4 Dyecam mask real quick with you, how I take care of the mask, what products I use to treat it, how I store it, and how I use my goggle cam with the mask, how I mount it, all my preferences for those things, as well as any tips and tricks I can throw in there for you that may help with playing with the i4 in all different seasons. So let's go take a look at it. So as you can see, I've picked up a little tip here from actually Billy Wing at Dye of zip tying on an i3 visor to my Dye i4 mask in order to protect against rain going down into the ventilation of the i4 mask here on top. What I've done is there's a hole on the very back on each side, the same distance, and you can see you can just run the zip tie down through there and around and zip tie at the top and just cut off the zip tie. If you have a big head, you might have to, or depending on the distance that you've spaced the i3 visor, you might have to trim the i3 visor. You could just use a compass to mark out an arc and then trim it. I used a Dremel tool to trim mine, and then some sandpaper, some fine grit sandpaper to sand it down so that it sits flush on my head. In terms of ventilation for the i4s, what makes them really work well is having this large vent by your mouth and your nose area, so as you're exhaling, that moist hot air is going directly out into the environment, leaving your mask in the front as well as in the top. You can see the huge grill area you have here, and so that's really what allows the i4 to work very well. I play year-round in my i4s. I probably had over 500 matches in the different models of i4s that I've worn, and I've had them in all conditions from -10, I would say, or so, all the way up to 110. They are excellent. I'd say of the masks that all of the players have used at our club, everyone's had the best luck with the i4s. In terms of initial cleaning of the mask, of all the areas except for the lens, what you want to do is go ahead and remove the lens. After you remove the lens, you're just going to use, what I use is just a sprayer from a sink, kitchen sink, to spray out all these areas here, and then I pat it down with a paper towel. So that's how I get all of the paint off of these other areas, and then just let it air dry. Make sure the lens isn't in when you do it. The i4 lens system is a quick change system. It's very easy to take out and replace lenses, or go clean them if you need to on the inside. There's a clip that you can see here on the inside of the mask, and you basically depress that button and you'll hear a click, an audible click. So you go ahead and press that button on each side of the lens, and then what you do is you can go ahead and take a hold of the side of the goggle strap and push forward. And so let me show you on the top view here. As you push forward, you can see up here it's going to disengage the mechanism on each side. So you want this slid forward on each side after you've unlocked it, and then what you can do is you can actually push out the entire lens. Okay, so it just slides out after you unclip it. So that's how you remove the lens. So now that we've removed the lens, if you look at this, you'll see an actual seal around the entire lens, and what that is doing is it's sealing between two different panes of the lens, which create a thermal buffer space in between the two lenses, and that's what is called a thermal lens. And so that allows for a better anti-fog resistance by having that kind of insulated buffer zone between those two panels, those two lens panels. So you definitely don't want to submerge these in water. I think if it was temporary or a short period, it'd be fine, but this is kind of a foam attachment between these two lenses, and you don't want that to get too wet, as it may come loose and then you'll develop issues between the two lenses. Don't want that to happen. There are all kinds of lens options for the i4s. The HD fade lens is one I use most often because it really is a balance. It's the best of both worlds for different lighting conditions that you're going to enter when you're playing woods ball. So smoke lens, I find for myself and the style of play that I participate in, is best for the winter in conditions where you have a lot of sun reflecting off of the snow. And so when you have that bright snow reflecting a lot of sun, smoke lens is my choice for those conditions. So this amber lens is the one that you will get when you purchase the Dyecam i4. So you don't have the tint on the top, as you saw. with the HD fade lens. Okay. You're going to have better contrast with the yellow or amber lens in kind of shadowy or darker conditions. And so I believe that's why they included that with the Dyecam i4, is because really the tactical Dyecam mask was planned for the woods ball player. Let me talk a little bit about what I do for lens care. And I know everyone's going to have their own kind of methodology. What I use is a product called FogDoc. FogDoc is FOGDOC, I believe .com. And FogDoc, if you Google that up, you'll find the company. It's just an excellent product. I've used different ones, and I find that this works the best. The way I tested this initially was by putting it on my bathroom mirror, and I like to take really, really hot showers, and my wife can fog up pretty much the whole house by taking a shower like that. And so I put this on the mirror in the bathroom, and I swear that mirror did not fog from her showers for a good 3 weeks. After a while, you kind of will see this product start, you'll see streaks going down the mirror. It still won't fog, but you'll see streaks as the product kind of loses its effectiveness, and then you'll have to retreat it. So FogDoc is what I use for anti-fog, even though you do have the thermal lens on the Dyecam i4 mask. I also use the FogDoc. Okay, now let's look at how you actually apply the FogDoc. It's really pretty simple, but easy to mess up if you haven't read the directions. What you want to do is take your FogDoc, which you've stored hopefully in a cool place. The refrigerator is a good place to store it, so it doesn't get as goopy as this. This one's been sitting out for a couple of minutes, warmed up to room temperature. And just coat your fingers, and then go ahead and rub them on the lens. And what you want is like a thin film of this product. So make sure you coat all surfaces of the inside of the lens here, and you'll see it develop a glossy kind of haze, just like waxing a car. And this is what you want to see. You don't want to goop this on. You don't need to goop it on. You just want a thin film of this FogDoc across the whole surface, and then go ahead and let it haze up. I actually treat both sides of my lens, both lenses. I don't believe it's a necessity. The inside lens is probably the most important, and it's just a habit that I have. Maybe it's one of my rituals. Maybe it makes a difference, maybe it doesn't. But it's what I do, what I've always done. And like I said, I've only ever had fogging barely in the corners here on the i4s, no matter what conditions I've been in. Once the FogDoc has formed the haze, you want to go ahead and take a polishing microfiber cloth. So don't use some other products, or use the same cloth that you use to kind of do the rough clean to get the paint initially off your mask. Have a separate cloth for this that's just for essentially polishing and off this FogDoc. I try to wipe just up and down direction, so just do the best you can. Make sure you get all surfaces on both sides, completely polish that product out. And you can see here, you really have great visibility through that mask, and you have the anti-fog now applied to your lens. Put the lens back in, just reverse the process with one key exception. So you go ahead and line this holes up, push it in from the front, secure it. There's actually a hook, and that hook needs to go and engage in with the actual lens system. So you're going to make sure that that hook is into that square opening on each side. So you can see here, I take this hook, this black hook, and engage it into that square opening, and then go ahead and just pull back on the strap, and you will hear an audible clicking noise, a snap, as you secure the mechanism that you depressed earlier to disengage the lens. You'll hear a click. So once you have a click on each side, your lens is reinstalled and you're ready to go. When I play, I have a small pouch where I keep the FogDoc for when I might need it during a long game or a long day of playing, as well as the polishing cloth in there separate. I've got my kind of second tier, if you will, cleaning rag. I have one in my pocket which is for the first clean. This one is more for the second polish. So this whole satchel here with my cleaning materials that I might need while I'm playing is attached to my belt, drawstrings closed, and I actually just got this from a set of headphones. and I loop that over my belt, and I stick this actually right into my front pocket. If it falls out, it just swings there, hangs there. Stick it back in. If I'm in a hurry, put it back in my pocket later. So it works out really well for me. I got everything I need to take care of my mask out in the field. Many of you know I run with a Headcam, and I always get the question on how do I prefer to treat this camera and attach it to my i4s. What I do is essentially I bought this waterproof Contour HD cam case. It's all orange when you get it, so I just sprayed it black. Essentially this is a waterproof case. My cam does get hit quite a bit, so you put that in there and then lock it down. So let me show you how I attach the Contour HD to my i4s. If you look here, there's actually an arrow pointing up. So you go ahead and basically just slide this. This is the goggle strap mount over your goggle strap. And then you'll have the mount in the rails, and you can see this button on top. Essentially you tip this into this housing, and then you pull on top of the latch here. So you do that in kind of one motion. Make sure you don't pinch the strap, and it sits there. So that's it. So that stays in place right against your head. There's a little piece of padding there. It feels fine. So sometimes it might get a little out of place, but once you play with it, you'll see what I mean. It's actually fine. It's very comfortable. I put it on my left side. A lot of you might think it's better to put on your right, but the problem with the right-hand side is if you're right-handed, you've got the camera on the right-hand side, you're going to be looking around a tree or something. This is my case and how I use this, or around a bunker, let's say. And as you do that, you're kind of tipping out. And as you watch this, as you tip out, the camera, if it was on this side, is going to tip quite drastically. And quite often as you tip and you're peering out, you look down a little bit. And so the camera's tipping forward and to the side. Basically, you end up with really horrible footage and camera angles in general out of everything you shoot. You might get a couple good ones where you're straight on looking at them, but I found to get much better quality shots by having on the left side. And then what I do is the Contour HD has an actual adjustable lens here, an angle from the lens. So you just can actually turn. There's a notch on the top, a white notch, and you can turn to compensate for the angle of tilt of the camera on your head. The Contour HD, thought about how you're going to use it. When you turn it on, it actually has 2 red dot lasers. Anytime you want the red dots, you just press it once, and the red dots will come back on. So 2 lasers, and you can basically point them at a fixed point, and when you do so, you can then determine the angle that you need for adjustment of the lens. You can see I can really drastically adjust this. I found that just slightly tilted works the best. It gets me the straightest footage, although you'll notice with my Headcam, you do quite often still get kind of a tilted view when I'm running straight, because I have it slightly off center, because for the most part I want you to see when I'm shooting, and I want it to be level when I'm shooting. Okay, so we've cleaned up the whole mask, we've put the fog dock on, showed you how the goggle strap works. So last bit of care really is to essentially make sure you're storing your mask in the bag that it came with. What I do is I have a larger mask bag. Rat4 made this one, and I put all my mask supplies into that one bag and close it off. Put that into my gear bag. One real quick tip for you, thing that I learned kind of the hard way, is that the KM straps don't fit onto the as a replacement onto the Dye i4 masks. So that's just something I learned the hard way. Just wanted to share with you all. Okay, so in terms of positives, well, I've got a lot of great things to say about the i4. Doesn't fog. I get -10 up to 110. Literally guarantee that. I played it all conditions of humidity. State of Maine is good for testing those kinds of things. Even face down for pretty long periods. You might, get a little bit of fog in the corners here, but if you're putting your head up every now and again, because of these vents on the top, it's still not going to fog. So I've had just the best luck with these, as well as my teammates have pretty much all picked up i4s. They're big guys like me, older guys, many of them, and they're very happy with them as well. So we really have nothing but great things to say about the i4s in terms of how they handle the climate and fogging conditions. And I do use anti-fog with them, so that does help as well, an added layer of protection. The strap is really comfortable, the earpiece is really comfortable. I showed you how I attach the goggle cam, fits right in there snug. I love the profile on them, I like how small and light they are. Really, overall, very happy with the mask, and it's really my mask of choice. So the negatives, there are a couple major ones for some folks, especially the folks that play speedball. You, with this mask, are exposed more. You're exposed more in your jaw, potentially, depending on the shape of your face, and your chin, as well as the top of your head above kind of where your bandana would sit, if you're wearing one. So let me just put this on and show you. You can kind of maybe see on the side of my jaw here that it's partially exposed. If I'm yelling and screaming, it's going to be dropping down even more. So I potentially could, right there, take a jaw hit if I'm yelling and screaming. But I'm talking right now, you know, you don't have much of a target. If I'm kind of hunched down and shooting, even less of a target, but potentially could take a hit right there on the jaw. I've only had it happen a couple times, literally in all the matches I've had, twice, I believe. But I play woods ball, I don't play speed ball, and I know with the speed ballers, it's a very legitimate concern for some people, depending on the shape of their face. You're also going to take more hits on the top of the head, up. You're going to have your bandana here. You might double them up. A lot of people double them up to protect against this, but you'll take more shots here over the top of the bunkers, and then they'll kind of slide back. So you'll have more kind of bumps and bruises up there. I'm okay with that because, you know, your head and your skull is the thickest bone in your body. I mean, you can take the damage. That's really the two major negatives that are going to make you want to seriously consider whether you want this mask or not, is the shape of your face and how willing you are to balance, you know, being able to see more and have it not fog and such against potentially a little more pain. So that's my review of this mask. I highly recommend this. This is the only mask I recommend for Maine weather, that's for sure. Get one. I mean, as long as you take some pain.